Well, we're nearing the end of the visit of the Prime Minister to the United States, but he's got a lot of work today as well. He'll be holding one-on-one discussions with various CEOs, professionals, stakeholders. Yesterday, he held talks with the US President Joe Biden at the White House and signed a slew of agreements, either he or members of the Government of India, semiconductors, critical materials, minerals, technology, space, defense cooperation, several areas which have really transformed the relationship between India and the United States. In terms of a closer look at the agreements and technology and what India is actually getting, it may be worthwhile doing a bit of a deep dive, looking at why some of the technology areas are so very important. If you look at the entire set or the entire gamut of India-US agreements which have come out in that joint statement, it's the technology agreements which are some of the most impressive. I have this report. It's being called a technology partnership for the future. And if you look at the final outcomes mentioned in the joint statement of Prime Minister Modi's visit, it's clear that high-tech is at the heart of what India wants and what India appears now to be getting. The big takeaway, semiconductor supply chains. Micron technology will support India's semiconductor mission with an $800 million investment in a new $2.75 billion semiconductor assembly and test facility in India. Lam Research will train a whopping 60,000 Indian engineers on semiconductors to accelerate development. It's one thing to talk about semiconductor chips which run essentially all modern electronic appliances, but sourcing rare materials for their manufacture is a huge challenge, which is why America and India have entered a critical minerals partnership along with 12 other countries. Why? And this is unsaid in the joint agreement, but China has the largest reserves of rare earth minerals in the world, and countries like the US and India do not want to be dependent on China. Even here, in this sphere, geostrategy is at play. India's digital economy is based on smartphone technology. Digital governance depends on it, quite apart from e-commerce or hundreds of other applications that power our lives. We are now in a 5G universe, but the future is 6G, and this is where India and the US will collaborate. India's Bharat 6G and the US Next-G Alliance will now co-lead this public-private research. So what is 6G? What are Open RAN systems? That's what we're going to try and explain. Well, Open RAN refers to a more flexible architecture to existing cell phone networks, a new industry-wide set of standards that are needed to connect smartphones and other devices to the internet. And 6G, well, that is truly transformative. With massively increased bandwidth on offer, 6G will be able to support autonomous driving, 4D navigation maps, new sensory experiences like immersive extended reality and high-definition holograms. The future is here. India and the United States are also now looking to step up cooperation in quantum, advanced computing and artificial intelligence, joint research, joint development, joint commercialization. Google is a key partner in the process, working closely with the Indian Institute of Science to collect speech data for artificial intelligence models. So what is quantum and artificial intelligence, or AI? The University of Plymouth defines quantum physics as the science which reveals fundamental knowledge about the world around us. It points the way for new technologies that go beyond any devices currently available. It does so through a profound study of atoms to make sense of the smallest things in nature. But forget about the science for now. There are already plenty of applications. Computers and mobiles, transistor technology, lasers, microscopy, global positioning systems, MRI machines in hospitals and healthcare centers. Another area of collaboration, India's Department of Atomic Energy is investing $140 million in the US Department of Energy's Fermi National Laboratory to co-develop the Proton Improvement Plan 2 Accelerator for the Long Baseline Neutrino Facility. Sounds confusing? Let me explain. The Plan 2 accelerator is a state-of-the-art particle accelerator that powers the world's most intense neutrino beam deep underground in the US state of Dakota to answer some of the most profound questions about our universe. This study is expected to yield scientific breakthroughs to questions which we've not even thought about so far. While the overall strategic relationship between India and the United States may be a primary focus, it's the investment in life-altering science and tech which impacts billions that may end up being a key bedrock of the equation between the world's oldest and the world's largest democracy. Vishnu Shom for NDTV. And just a reminder, in about half an hour from now, if they stick to time, and they've not always stuck to time, have American and Indian officials this time around, there'll be a tech handshake when the Prime Minister will be meeting a lot of the tech wizards, those in the high-tech industry who are contributing now to India. I think one of the most fascinating parts of the joint agreement which has been signed is space, because that is really an area where India and the United States have a remarkable future. That's because the US has been the global leader in most areas of space, whether it's rocketry or satellite or human exploration or any number of other fields, research as well. ISRO is still relatively up and coming, but it is a center of excellence in India, real excellence. And we've got huge ambitions as well. So, for starters, there's going to be an Indian astronaut that's going to, or he or she perhaps, going to fly to the International Space Station. And this has nothing to do really with India's Gaganyaan program, which is our independent human space mission. That's progressing. It's still some ways away. Some technologies, in fact, quite a lot of them need to be fine-tuned. So ISRO is likely to decide if one of the 4 pilots who've been shortlisted for Gaganyaan will be among those, or will be the pilot, or will be one of those who will get onto the International Space Station. They may not, in which case, who knows, will there be a woman Indian astronaut to the International Space Station? India is going to be paying for this most likely. It'll cost about 200 crores. That's just the ride up to the space station, training as well. Training itself could happen in 6 months. So at the end of the day, it's actually has to move quite fast, because the Prime Minister and the President of the US have announced that 2024 is when it's going to happen. That's one part of the agreement. The other one looks at the Artemis Accord. We'll talk about Artemis in a little while from now. Pallav Bangla, could we see an Indian woman in the International Space Station?
Oh, I would really love that. For a long time, I have been hoping that an Indian woman, Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao, to reach space. When India selected the 4 astronauts, we were looking at only test pilots. So we were left with no option but to have only men. But now there is a possibility you could have anybody who's there. Yeah. And why not? You have fighter pilots in the Indian Air Force, women fighter pilots, yes, very capable.
Yes.
We could see them, or we could see a scientist.
Right.
It could be anybody. So my personal wish, if we get a woman in space, it is great optics both for Prime Minister Modi and for President Biden, both going to an election year in 2024. Amazing optics for India and USA, if we can send an Indian woman in space.
This mission, and just for the benefit of our viewers, has nothing to do with Gaganyaan. That's happening independently. And there's so much banking on that. National pride, our science, our rockets, our manned mission, our spacecraft. Where is Gaganyaan?
See, Gaganyaan is progressing steadily towards its fruition. 2024 is the target when India wants to send its first crewed mission, which will have a human in space. But before that, there are a battery of tests which have to succeed one after the other. Some of the tests may happen in a few weeks, which is the abort mission for the crew module, etc. But all of these have to succeed one after the other. None has to fail. The option then, if all succeed, is 2024. Indian Space Research Organization asked for about 10,000 crores of funding. I just met the Minister for Space and Science, Dr. Jiten Singh. He told me funding will not be a problem for Gaganyaan. Gaganyaan will go on independently. This is an add-on mission, which is an Indo-US mission to send an Indian to the International Space
The
Station.
first Indian since Rakesh Sharma, right?
First Indian since 1984. Imagine
Where
such
is
a long
Rakesh
gap.
Sharma?
Oh, Rakesh is doing well. I spoke to him a few weeks ago. He is well settled in the Nilgiris, and he still reminiscences and talks about his Sare Jahan Se Acha. So we may have a Sare Jahan Se Acha moment once more in 2024, and this time it could be a result of the Modi, Biden, Bhai, bonhomie which we saw.
Pallav, let's also talk a little bit about Artemis. I think Artemis is important because Artemis looks at the future of space exploration, international norms and rules, but it also has a couple of founding principles, that there will be a woman on the surface of the moon and there will be a person of color on the surface of the moon as well. That's again something that works well with India and our aspirations of making space inclusive. Now, I don't think there'll be an Indian on the moon this time around first, but it is a laudable goal, isn't it?
Oh, it is a very laudable goal, and the signing of the Artemis Accord is a signature of the accord, but not for permission or joining the Artemis program. That is a step away. Right now, India is joining up with people or countries which have similar outlook on space, and especially on outer space, on taking on aspects for Moon, Mars and beyond. But right now, joining the Artemis program is still some distance away, and India already has its Gaganyaan program, and India does not have as yet a plan to send an Indian to the moon. But who knows, if Gaganyaan succeeds, we could well see an Indian going to the moon, and if it can happen jointly with the US, it would be an exciting opportunity.
You know, I think that's an important point, and that was actually my next question. Given the costs involved in deep space exploration, it only makes sense for us to get into an alliance of sorts or work together with a country like the United States, because it is otherwise impossible to afford. I think America recognizes that as well. They would want financial assistance as well, and that may be financially a more viable way of doing it than, say, China, which is spending huge amounts in their space mission, which is also a very successful mission with a lot of potential. But I think it's the synergy of India and the United States which can work well.
Certainly. The world's oldest democracy and the world's largest democracy joining together, shaking hands on Earth, will create music and jugalbandi in space. Now, it is also in America's interest to have India on board in the Artemis program or in the space program. If America has the technology, Indians have the frugal engineering and low-cost manufacturing as the base.
Right.
So when both join together, it is great for the humanity.
Yeah.
And exploring the solar system, going beyond the solar system, looking at universe together, I think it offers amazing opportunities, and this is really the first step. And one more important thing, Vishnu, I should add for you. What I see is truly the ending of technology denial and sanctions which were imposed on India.
Right.
Now, India is participating as an equal partner. So this is a fascinating
Let me
shift.
interrupt you over there and just get your thoughts on this. The end of technology denial, let's just look at another aspect of the visit to the United States. We were collaborating with the United States for development of the light combat aircraft. Then the sanctions regime kicked in after we did our nuclear tests. And then we had to develop the aircraft entirely ourselves. Now, after all of these years, the engine for that aircraft is actually going to be built in India. So the world has come 360 degrees around.
Certainly. See, India has been a country which has followed global principles, never broken global regulations, rules, be it even in nuclear testing. We did not break any international treaties, international laws. We went ahead with what needed to be done. The sanctions were unilaterally imposed.
Right.
And a lot of time Indian scientists tell me they were really a blessing in disguise, because whatever was denied, they developed on their own. Take Tejas,
Yeah.
except the engine, everything else is now Indian. Yeah. It's Atmanirbhar. So now when you have the 414 engine for the next upgrade on Tejas, it would be a fully Atmanirbhar product. So,
Right.
and the same thing would happen in space.
Yeah.
India has very sophisticated rockets.
Yeah.
America also has sophisticated rockets. The two can join hands, and then we can see both India and the US flourishing.
Right.
And China has its own trajectory. Let's not go there. That's more geopolitics. But at the same time, two democracies working together would certainly benefit 1.4 billion Indians and the 400 million Americans.
Right. So I absolutely, Pallav, I mean, it's exciting times ahead. And we're going to see a lot more of Pallav on NDTV. A couple of important launches. Remember, our Chandrayaan mission isn't quite done as yet. We need to land the lander on the surface of the moon. That's going to be happening perhaps in a matter of weeks. We'll take a short break. More coming up.
Brought to you by
NDTV News Network.
That informs
Inspires,
and illuminates. Watch every side of the story here on NDTV.
because the only side we're on is yours.
23 years of the big fight. This show is not just an ordinary debate show, but it is a responsibility in service of our viewers.
NDTV for news you can trust. No sensationalism, no ugly debates, no agenda. We strive to be transparent and unbiased in our reporting so you can get news that you can rely on.
A debate has many facets, perhaps no one right answer. Left, right, and center. Conversations that get to the core of the debate.
In a world filled with noise, we bring you news that you can rely on with accuracy and integrity, because at NDTV, trust is everything.
In a world with rapidly shifting power dynamics, India is emerging as a global power. With its new standing, how do Indians view the world?
It's undeniable. We're facing the crisis of the generation, climate change. And it's happening. Not in some far-off distant land or some millions of years away. It's happening now. And it affects everything we know and love. Information around climate change can often feel too distant, too jargony, too scary, too anxiety-filled, too technical, or too political. I'm here to change that. The Climate Explainers, part of NDTV's 6-month-long campaign, Building a Blueprint for Climate Action. The climate clock is ticking, but we're just in time.
The NDTV News Network
That informs
inspires,
and illuminates. Watch every side of the story here on NDTV.
because the only side we're on is yours.
23 years of the big fight. This show is not just an ordinary debate show, but it is a responsibility in service of our viewers.
NDTV for news you can trust. No sensationalism, no ugly debates, no agenda. We strive to be transparent and unbiased in our reporting so you can get news that you can rely on.
A debate has many facets, perhaps no one right answer. Left, right, and center. Conversations that get to the core of the debate.
In a world filled with noise, we bring you news that you can rely on with accuracy and integrity, because at NDTV, trust is everything.
In a world with rapidly shifting power dynamics, India is emerging as a global power. With its new standing, how do Indians view the world?
It's undeniable. We're facing the crisis of the generation, climate change, and it's happening. Not in some far-off distant land or some millions of years away. It's happening now. And it affects everything we know and love. Information around climate change can often feel too distant, too jargony, too scary, too anxiety-filled, too technical, or too political. I'm here to change that. The Climate Explainers, part of NDTV's 6-month-long campaign, building a blueprint for climate action. The climate clock is ticking, but we're just in time.
The NDTV News Network
That informs
inspires,
and illuminates. Watch every side of the story here on NDTV.
because the only side we're on is yours.
23 years of the big fight. This show is not just an ordinary debate show, but it is a responsibility in service of our viewers.
NDTV for news you can trust. No sensationalism.
Well, all political parties have agreed to contest elections together, but one more meeting will be held next month in Himachal Pradesh's Shimla to finalize details of opposition parties. The Bihar Chief Minister Nitish Kumar, who was the host of the big opposition meeting of 17 parties, has said this after a 4-hour-long meeting. The Aam Aadmi Party Chief Arvind Kejriwal and Tamil Nadu Chief Minister and DMK head M.K. Stalin were absent from the joint press conference, though Mr. Kumar claimed that they left because they had to rush back on their flights. There were sharp exchanges between the Congress and the Aam Aadmi Party during the meeting. Arvind Kejriwal sought the Grand Old Party's stand on the ordinance issue, while Congress Chief Mallikarjun Kharge raised the Aam Aadmi Party Chief spokesperson Priyanka Kakkar's allegation that the Congress is not taking a stand because of a deal with the BJP.
और एक साथ चलने की सहमति हुई है और उसके बाद अगली मीटिंग कुछ ही दिनों के बाद सब पार्टियों की एक और की जाएगी और हर चीज के बारे में, कोई भी किसी राज्य के बारे में भी, वहाँ की सरकार के बारे में कोई एक चुनौती आती है तो सब लोग एक साथ कहे कि नहीं साहब सब लोग रहेंगे, तो ये सब बात हो गई है।
हिंदुस्तान की नींव पर आक्रमण हो रहा है, फाउंडेशन पर, इंस्टीट्यूशंस पर, आवाज पर बीजेपी और आरएसएस आक्रमण कर रही है। मैंने मीटिंग में भी कहा यह विचारधारा की लड़ाई है और इसमें हम सब एक साथ खड़े हैं।
ये बोलेंगे आप,
हम में जरूर थोड़ी थोड़ी डिफरेंसेस होंगी, मगर हमने ये निर्णय लिया है कि हम एक साथ काम करेंगे, फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी के साथ काम करेंगे और जो हमारी विचारधारा है जिसको हम शेयर करते हैं उसकी हम रक्षा करेंगे। जैसे खारगे जी ने कहा, नीतीश जी ने कहा, कुछ ही समय में अगली मीटिंग होगी और ये जो आज हमने बातचीत की उसको हम थोड़ा और गहराई में ले जाएंगे। मगर ये एक प्रोसेस है, ऑपोजिशन यूनिटी की एक प्रोसेस है और ये बहुत गहरी तरीके से आगे बढ़ने जा रही है। आप सबका
नंबर वन, वी आर यूनाइटेड, हम लोग एक है। दूसरी बात है वी विल फाइट यूनाइटेडली, ये दूसरी बात है, हम लोग एक साथ में लड़ेंगे। तीसरी बात ये हुआ है कि हमारा लड़ाई, हमको अपोजिशन मत बोलो, हम लोग भी देश का सिटीजन है, हम लोग भी पैट्रियोटिक है, हम भी देशप्रेमिक है, हम भी भारत माता कहते हैं। मणिपुर जलने से हमारा भी आग जलते हैं।
हम इस आइडिया ऑफ इंडिया जो है
जिस गांधी के मुल्क, जिस जवाहरलाल नेहरू के मुल्क के साथ हमने हाथ मिलाया है जम्मू कश्मीर में, वो आइडिया ऑफ इंडिया है। तो आज जब हम देख रहे हैं कि जिस तरह मुल्क के अंदर लोगों के साथ जो व्यवहार किया जा रहा है, खासकर जो माइनॉरिटीज़ है, जिस तरह डेमोक्रेसी को अंडरमाइन किया जा रहा है, तो उसके लिए हम सब इकट्ठे हो गए। और हमारे पास तो ज़्यादा ताकत नहीं है, जम्मू कश्मीर में 5-6 सीटें हैं, पर हम समझते हैं कि आइडिया ऑफ इंडिया का जितना सपोर्टरी और वोटरी जम्मू कश्मीर है, शायद कोई ऐसा नहीं होगा। तो हमारी कोशिश यही रहेगी कि हम गांधी के मुल्क को गोडसे का मुल्क बनने नहीं देंगे।
आज केवल दल यहाँ नहीं बल्कि देश के लोग, देश के नेता मिल रहे हैं। पटना का संदेश यही है आज के कार्यक्रम का कि हम सब लोग मिलकर के काम करेंगे, मिलकर के, और देश को बचाने का, देश की जनता को, और देश कैसे आगे बढ़े उस दिशा में लगातार हम लोग मिलकर के काम करेंगे। यही संदेश है। मैं सभी लीडर्स का बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद और आभार प्रकट करता हूं।
Meanwhile, the RJD chief Lalu Prasad Yadav is back at his humorous best, addressing a joint press conference of the opposition. He's advised Rahul Gandhi to get married soon.
राहुल गांधी जी आए हैं। राहुल गांधी अच्छा काम इन दिनों में किए। भारत दर्शन देश भर में पैदल दर्शन कराए लोगों को।
उम्र है तो उसके बाद अपना ही बढ़ा दिए।
हाँ, तो घूमने लगे तो फिर
ये बढ़ा लिए
हैं। अब ज़्यादा नीचे मत ले जाइए। पता नहीं कि नरेंद्र मोदी का है, पूरा नहीं सिलवाता है, इसलिए नीतीश जी का भी राय है कि अब और छोटा छोटा करना चाहिए। बात तो हम लोग आप सलाह माने नहीं, ब्याह नहीं किए, आप शादी कर लेना चाहिए था। और अभी भी समय गया, बीता नहीं है। शादी करिए और हम लोग बराती चलें और शादी करिए, बात मानिए। आपकी मम्मी हमको बोलती एकदम पक्का करना पड़ेगा। मम्मी आपकी बोलती थी कि आप हमारा बात नहीं मानता, शादी करवाइए आप।
पटना में हुई विपक्ष की बैठक के बाद आम आदमी पार्टी कांग्रेस से नाराज हो गई है। आम आदमी पार्टी का कहना है कि जब तक कांग्रेस सार्वजनिक रूप से केंद्र के अध्यादेश का विरोध नहीं करेगी, तब तक ऐसी किसी बैठक में जहां पर कांग्रेस हिस्सा ले रही हो, आम आदमी पार्टी शामिल नहीं होगी। कांग्रेस अपना स्टैंड क्लियर करे और इस केंद्र के अध्यादेश का विरोध करे। मेरे साथ आम आदमी पार्टी के सीनियर लीडर जसमीन शाह हैं। सर, इतना हार्ड स्टैंड क्यों लिया है कि अब एक तो ये कह रहे हैं कि आइंदा से भी आप ऐसी किसी बैठक में हिस्सा नहीं लेंगे जहां पर कांग्रेस हिस्सा ले रही होगी?
देखिए, पूरा देश जानता है कि दिल्ली के ऊपर जो काला अध्यादेश थोपा गया है वो संविधान को के मुंह पर एक तमाचा है, लोकतंत्र के मुंह पे तमाचा है और सुप्रीम कोर्ट के जजमेंट के मुंह पे तमाचा है। और हम ये भी जानते हैं कि अगर ये अध्यादेश दिल्ली में पास हो गया, पार्लियामेंट में पास हो गया, तो कल किसी भी स्टेट में आ सकता है। इसलिए बहुत खतरनाक अध्यादेश है। आज जो पटना में बैठक हुई उसमें 15 दल शामिल थे, जिनमें से 12 ऐसे दल थे जिनके राज्यसभा में सांसद हैं, और इन 12 दलों में से 11 दलों ने साफ शब्दों में इस अध्यादेश का खंडन किया है, इनकी निंदा करी है। दुख की बात है कि केवल और केवल कांग्रेस ने इस पे चुप्पी धारी रखी है, और बाकी जितने भी दल थे आज, केवल आम आदमी पार्टी ने नहीं, उन्होंने भी समझाने की कोशिश करी कांग्रेस को और आग्रह किया कि आप इस पे अपना स्पष्टीकरण दीजिए, लेकिन कांग्रेस ने चुप्पी धारी। तो इसलिए बड़ा दुख होता है कि जब देश के संविधान को बचाने के लिए अगर विपक्ष एकजुट हो रहा है तो कांग्रेस चुप क्यों है। और इसलिए फिर ये बाकी सारी जो आशंकाएं जताई जा रही है, कांग्रेस के कुछ लीडर्स ये भी कह रहे हैं कि हम बीजेपी के साथ बातचीत कर रहे हैं कि जब राज्यसभा में ये अध्यादेश आएगा तो हम वॉकआउट कर लेंगे, मतलब बीजेपी को जिता देंगे। इसलिए आज हमारा ये कहना ज़रूरी हो गया है कि अगर कांग्रेस इस पे अपना स्पष्टीकरण नहीं देती तो ऐसा कोई भी गठबंधन जिसका हिस्सा कांग्रेस हो उस पे आम आदमी पार्टी का रहना मुश्किल होगा, बल्कि कोई भी ऐसी मीटिंग भी होती है विपक्षी दलों की जिसका हिस्सा कांग्रेस हो तो हमारा उसमें रहना मुश्किल हो जाएगा।
सवाल ये भी उठ रहे हैं कि जिस तरह से बैठक से पहले ही एक तरह का अल्टीमेटम दिया जा रहा था आम आदमी पार्टी की तरफ से कि अगर आप कांग्रेस ने इस पर अपना स्टैंड क्लियर नहीं करा तो वॉकआउट भी कर जाएंगे, और दूसरा फिर सवाल ये भी उठ रहे हैं कि इस तरह से अगर आप रुख अपनाएंगे, इतना हार्ड स्टैंड लेंगे तो विपक्षी एकता तो हो ही नहीं पाएगी।
देखिए, अगर संविधान को आपके आंखों के सामने जलाया जा रहा है, कुचला जा रहा है, तो हार्ड स्टैंड तो लेना पड़ेगा। चाय समोसे खाने के लिए कोई विपक्षी दल एकजुट नहीं हुए हैं, सिद्धांत के ऊपर एकजुट हुए हैं कि संविधान को बचाना है, और संविधान को दिल्ली में भी बचाना है, केरल में भी बचाना है, तमिलनाडु में भी बचाना है। ये आप एक पिक एंड चूज नहीं कर सकते। और जिस जगह पे जहां 15 में से 14 विपक्षी दल एक साथ हैं, एक आवाज में बात कर रहे हैं, वहां पे कांग्रेस क्यों चुप है? तो ये सवाल कांग्रेस को पूछना चाहिए आपको कि कांग्रेस इतने बड़े मुद्दे पे जहां पे एक तरह से डेमोक्रेसी को खत्म किया जा रहा है दिल्ली में, उस पे आप सफाई नहीं दे रहे हैं, और आपके जो सीनियर लीडर्स है पंजाब के और दिल्ली के कह रहे हैं कि नहीं, इसमें तो मोदी जी का साथ देना चाहिए।
Well, my colleague Arvind Gunasekara joins us now for more on this. So, Arvind, if the Aam Aadmi Party continues to have problems with regard to the Congress party, then where exactly is opposition unity headed?
Vishnu, on this very important question, we did speak to two opposition parties. One, we asked a senior leader of Congress saying that because Aam Aadmi Party has made it very clear that they will not be part of any coalition that involves Congress till the Congress party makes a stand clear on the Delhi ordinance issue, for which Congress sources say that the next meeting of the opposition parties has been planned in Shimla on either July 10th or 12th, and it's up to Aam Aadmi Party to attend the meeting or not. But this particular senior leader made it very clear. He told us that the decision to support or oppose the ordinance will be taken after consulting the state unit and also like-minded opposition parties only closer to the parliament session. Such a non-issue cannot be discussed or deliberated at this point of hour, and the Congress party maintains that they will not be giving in to such threats of Aam Aadmi Party, and they make it very clear only closer to the parliament session the party will take a call whether to oppose or support the ordinance. So till then they make it very clear that that particular issue will not be discussed in the larger opposition unity. According to the Congress party, the issue is bigger. To save democracy, they want all the like-minded parties to come together, and if Aam Aadmi Party chooses to stay away from such a coalition on this particular issue, then they say that people will judge Aam Aadmi Party. That seems to be the stand of Congress. We also spoke to another senior party which is part of this coalition. That particular leader also worked alongside to ensure such a meeting happens in Patna. So that particular leader told us that they would be reaching out to Aam Aadmi Party and they will try to bring both the parties to the table for discussion in Shimla. So talks will happen behind the screen, and we can expect only closer to Shimla meeting we'll get to know whether Aam Aadmi Party will come back to table or whether they will wait for the parliament session to see whether Congress opposes or supports the ordinance, and then Aam Aadmi Party will take a call.
All right, thanks Arvind very much for sharing those details. BJP leaders have meanwhile attacked the opposition meet, the Home Minister Amit Shah calling it a photo op, while the BJP President JP Nadda reminding leaders how they were treated by the Congress during the emergency. And Lahar Singh Saroha has tweeted at the opposition meet in Patna. Present are Lalu Yadav and son Sharad Pawar and his daughter. The other two blue dynasts are Stalin, Mehbooba Mufti, Akhilesh Yadav, Omar Abdullah, Uddhav Thackeray, Hemant Soren and Rahul Gandhi. Are they trying to save the nation or are they trying to save their families?
मित्रों, आज 23 तारीख को पटना में एक फोटो सेशन चल रहा है। सारे विपक्ष के नेता एक मंच पर इकट्ठा हो रहे हैं और संदेश देना चाहते हैं कि हम भारतीय जनता पार्टी को, एनडीए को और मोदी जी को चैलेंज करेंगे। मैं सारे विपक्ष के नेताओं को ये कहना चाहता हूं, कितने भी हाथ मिला लो, आपकी एकता कभी संभव नहीं है।
स्वार्थ का ये गठबंधन जिसके निशाने पर है हिंदुस्तान, ये राजनीतिक दल जब भी इकट्ठे आए भ्रष्टाचार लाए।
While the focus today has been opposition parties coming together to defeat the BJP ahead of 2024, the BJP has also been looking to strengthen itself. My colleague Megha has details on how the BJP plans to do it.
Well, the BJP's road to 2024, they are, of course, looking at parties that they can target in this run-up to the general elections next year. In Karnataka, JDS appears to be pulling closer to the Bharatiya Janata Party. BJP is looking also at Chandrababu Naidu's support in Andhra Pradesh. We are also wondering if the BJP and Akali Dal perhaps will come back together for another time in the state of Punjab. BJP is aiming also for an alliance with smaller parties in Bihar, whether it is Jitan Rao Mandi's party or it is Chirag Paswan's faction that he is currently heading. BJP is, following a similar strategy in UP also, where they are trying to woo their ex-ally Rajbhar. So this is as far as Bharatiya Janata Party is concerned. On the other hand, of course, today we've seen at least 17 different parties come together in Patna, and even if Aam Aadmi Party is to be counted out because they have made their displeasure and their objection known publicly that they would not be part of any of the alliance meetings going forward if Congress is also an invitee there, even then 16 parties have come together and decided to take this cooperation of theirs ahead in another meeting in Shimla in next month. All eyes will be on that meeting to see how and which road it charts ahead.
Well, it's time now for us to take a short break. There's more coming up.